This is a stimulus update and daily news report. The battles continue and the stakes have never been higher. Nancy Pelosi saying that three major bills are going to be passed this week. One being the bipartisan infrastructure, two, the $3.5 trillion stimulus, and three, government funding so the government does not shut down. When it comes to government funding, the White House is saying prepare for a government shutdown, basically saying strap in, expect the worst. With the $3.5 trillion stimulus, some good news here. The House Budget Committee has voted and passed it, meaning that it can advance to the House for an official vote, the big vote, but not so fast because Joe Manchin is saying, let's not have a vote on this. There is no timeline. Meanwhile, Nancy Pelosi is saying there is an intense timeline and we need to get this done. Kyrsten Sinema versus Pramila Jayapal saying one bill needs to go before the other. Otherwise, they're not voting for it and everything could go up in flames. When it comes to the debt ceiling, looks like there is some trouble there because Democrats are saying they need Republican support. Meanwhile, Mitch McConnell and Republicans are saying, no, we're not supporting you, do it by yourself, which could spell disaster and the U.S. defaulting on its debt. I'm going to play you many different video clips in between which you don't want to miss. Then I'll answer the questions you leave for me in the comments. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend. If you appreciate these fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below, and I'm giving $200 to my subscribers and announcing the winners tomorrow, so you still have time to enter if you haven't already. Details down in the description below. So Nancy Pelosi says the Biden spending plan, infrastructure deal, and funding must pass next week, which means it's all going down starting tomorrow, and there is an intense timeline. Meanwhile, Joe Manchin thinks otherwise. As Democrats race forward, Joe Manchin pumps brakes saying there is no timeline. There is no reason that we have to pass that $3.5 trillion package tomorrow, Monday, or this upcoming week. That's an artificial deadline. Joe Manchin is saying he seeks to slow down $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill as Democrats move forward with the legislation in critical phase. Now, when it comes to the Part 1 bipartisan infrastructure bill, Joe Manchin saying, yes, we need to pass that. Keep in mind, his wife is getting $1 billion for her commission through that bipartisan infrastructure plan, which he has no problem with slowing down. He wants that to pass as soon as possible, while Nancy Pelosi insists time of intensity as Democrats aim to pass three major bills in 1 week. If we've seen anything over the past few months, and if you've been following me for a year plus, deadlines like this don't usually work out too well, especially with Congress. Congress and deadline in the same sentence just don't make any sense at all, but there are serious stakes at risk here, especially when it comes to government funding, which I'll get into in a moment. But Nancy Pelosi says that the bipartisan infrastructure vote will happen Monday tomorrow. But she did not give a date for the reconciliation. Pelosi confirms vote next week on reconciliation package. Now, this could spell disaster because she's giving a Monday vote for the bipartisan bill, but no day for the $3.5 trillion package. Now, when it comes to Senator Sinema from Arizona, Kyrsten Sinema, she says to Nancy Pelosi, break your word on infrastructure and I break your bill, or basically saying I'm out. So Kyrsten Sinema wants to make sure that the bipartisan infrastructure gets passed first. Meanwhile, progressives are saying that they want the $3.5 trillion package first. Otherwise, both parties of the Democrats, or the moderates versus the progressives, either one is going to tank each other's bill, which makes things really crazy right now. So the House budget, some good news here. The House budget, Democrats approve unfinished $3.5 trillion spending plan. So this happened last night. The House Budget Committee votes to pass $3.5 trillion spending bill. What this means is that they voted on Saturday to pass the $3.5 trillion spending bill from the committee and send it to the House floor. So the vote was a 20-17 with Democrat Representative Scott Peters of California joining Republicans to vote against the bill, which means that now that it has advanced from the Budget Committee, it is now available for a full House vote. So you may see vote passed here, vote passed there. Now it's going to the House where it can have an official vote. So that $3.5 trillion package is ready to vote. But a lot of politicians are complaining about it because it's 2,400 pages, and the bill text just came out on Saturday. And how is it possible that all these politicians are able to read 2,400 pages within just 2 days? So a lot of them are saying there's slush funds in there, meaning that a lot of politicians are sneaking in dirty deals where they're getting some kickbacks. There's some backdoor spending, a lot of shady stuff in that bill, just like every other bill that goes through Congress, though. Now, Representative Pramila Jayapal says progressives will shoot down the Part 1 infrastructure bill if the $3.5 trillion spending plan does not pass first. And she's saying she's serious, that she is not bluffing, she's not grandstanding. Basically, she made her demands, and if her demands are not met, then everything just goes up in flames. Here's Pramila Jayapal talking more about that.
Is a promise of a reconciliation vote enough to get progressives to a yes on the bipartisan infrastructure bill first?
Hi, Garrett. It's great to see you. No, that won't be enough, but we really do support Pelosi's, the Speaker's efforts to move the reconciliation bill along, just because there are some final pieces that need to be put together in order to say this is the vision that we have for the reconciliation bill, for the Build Back Better Act. So I'm looking forward to going into budget markup. The discussions are continuing, both behind the scenes, privately, with the White House, with the Senate, with the House, with some of us intra-chamber conversations. And we are going to get both these bills done. That is my firm belief. That is what I said to the president the other day. The progressives, frankly, have had the president's back from the very beginning. This is the Build Back Better agenda that the president laid out to Congress many, many months ago, back in February. And we have been saying we're not leaving one part of the agenda behind and giving up on the idea of childcare, paid leave, community college, health care. These are things that people will feel immediately, along with making sure that we address immigration and that we address climate change. These are critical priorities for the Democratic agenda. So we will get the reconciliation bill as close as we can, but the conversations obviously have to be with the Senate. There's no point in just saying the House will pass. We've always said we need to pre-conference it.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, what does that effort look like? I was struck by the fact that these White House meetings this week, you had the progressives in one meeting, the moderates in another meeting. When are you and Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema going to sit down in a room together and have this conversation directly?
Well, I'm very happy to do that. And actually, there have been the beginnings of that starting to happen. So I think, let's
well, what does that mean? What are the beginnings of those conversations? Is somebody sending somebody an Outlook invite here, or what's going on?
Yeah, we've gotten requests to have those meetings. So we're happy to do that, and we'll get scheduled very soon. So, my thing is that we've got to understand the bipartisan infrastructure negotiations. Remember when they were supposed to be done 1 week, and then that week stretched to another week, and then another week?
Oh, yes.
And remember it really well, Garrett. You were there every step of the way. But the reality is we just need a little bit more time. I don't think we need a lot of time, but we do need a little bit more time, and we need the urgency. And so there's no point in, Monday is an arbitrary date. It could be moved easily, because the reality is the bill coming up and not having the votes is not something that the Speaker will be willing to do, and we don't have the votes for it. So let's just finish. Let's remember we're all part of the same team. This is the president's Democratic agenda, and we're all Democrats. So let's just finish this, get the reconciliation bill done, as was agreed upon in the Senate. When those senators voted for the bipartisan infrastructure bill, they did so on the condition that this exact thing that we're saying right now is what happens. The reconciliation bill passes, and then we'll be happy to vote for the infrastructure bill.
I've noticed that you and Bernie Sanders, who is obviously the progressive kind of championing this on the Senate side, have taken slightly different tones in how you talk about what's going on with the reconciliation bill. You keep talking about wanting to continue to negotiate. I don't have to tell you, you're not going to be able to negotiate up from $3.5 trillion. It seems to me that any further negotiations probably mean this bill in some ways gets smaller. I understand there's no priority you want to see let go, and I noted that you told Andrea Mitchell the idea of maybe sort of changing the time frame for some of these programs is perhaps where you see potential movement here. Can you talk to me about what it looks like if in that meeting with Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, the price tag has to come down for them to be on board? Do you see that by adjusting the time frame of the you want to get all these programs into action, but maybe some of them are for 6 years, not 10? Or is that how you see this progressing?
Well, when I say I want to keep negotiating, it means that we have put on the table what our vision is. And what the president said the other day, that he asked the group that came in to the White House before us to give him was, what is it you're for? We've heard a lot about what people are against. But what I want to know is, okay, if you don't like something in the bill, what is it? Is it childcare? Is it health care? What is it that you want to take out? Because the number is sort of arbitrary. In fact, Garrett, I think I said this to you the other day, this is a $0 bill. I heard the president say this today because I made it clear to him, I thought we needed to start talking about the fact that this is all paid for with taxes on the wealthiest individuals and the largest corporations paying their fair share. It's a $0 bill. So the question is not what is the price tag at the end of the day. The question is, what do you want to do? And we put forward our vision. So if there's something you don't like, tell me what it is. I want to hear. And that's what, I think these conversations need to be about.
So everything is coming to a head now, and we're going to see a lot of things happen this week. It's basically all or nothing. Either things get passed and life kind of goes on the same way it is now, or if things do not get passed, we're going to see some serious consequences in our everyday life, especially when it comes to government funding for the government shutdown and the debt ceiling. So Democrats are sick of dealing with the debt ceiling and regularly staving off economic catastrophe, saying we should get rid of it. So some Democrats want to kill the debt ceiling as the limit nears a critical mid-October deadline. Republicans are starkly opposed to raising it, leaving Democrats to prevent a government default on their own. And interest in ending this silly rule is growing among Democrats, and even some Republicans, Representative Bill Foster told insiders. So they want to get rid of this. It seems that every year they keep raising it. So what's the point of keep raising it? Why not just get rid of it? Well, they could do that in the future, but there is a serious problem to deal with now, because the U.S. could default on debt as soon as October 15th, meaning that if the U.S. does not raise the debt ceiling by October 15th, there are serious economic consequences from this. The stock market could crash, unemployment goes down, there's $15 trillion of wealth that could be lost from households across the country. Medicare won't be funded. A lot of other government programs won't be funded. It's different than the government shutdown. It could cause a lot of serious problems. So key lawmakers say Democrats lack time to raise debt limit on their own, basically saying they need help from the Republicans. Meanwhile, Mitch McConnell says Democrats have time to go for it alone and vote on debt. Here's a video clip from John Yarmuth talking more about the debt ceiling.
And Congressman, I want to start with the gargantuan task here. It's as if, you set about, you're trying to remodel and redo the entire American neighborhood, and then all of a sudden here comes a Category 5 storm that can upend everything, meaning the debt limit and government shutdown. How do you sort of disaggregate this a little bit? Because it does feel like you got to use my elephant metaphor, if you're going to gobble all this, you got to deal with it one bite at a time.
Yeah, Chuck. Well, thanks for having me on. It's a confluence of events, which is probably unfortunate. We do have a lot to do. We have 9 days to keep the government funded. We have a little more than that to do to raise the debt ceiling, and the Build Back Better Act, which is the reconciliation bill, is something that we're still working through. There's still differences between House and Senate on some critical issues. So we're trying to work those out so we can get that done as efficiently as possible. But ultimately, that bill and passing the bipartisan infrastructure bill comes second to funding the government and raising the debt limit.
You seem to be, or over the weekend, you seem to hint, and from my perspective, it sounded like you were being a realist here, that, look, at the end of the day, the Republicans have decided they're not touching this. And they've got their own political incentives that will reward them for not touching this, despite maybe what some think that pressure from the business community and things like that. And that Democrats have to accept the idea that, hey, the reason you got the majority is that there's a group of voters here that may not like the Democrats or the Republicans, but they view the Democrats as a more responsible party, so you have to be the more responsible actor here. Do you feel as if you're sort of stuck in this role of having to do this on your own, since they're incentivized not to help? I mean, that's the part of this. There's no incentive on their end politically to help. They get rewarded for this.
Well, that's one of the problems we have throughout our political system right now, is that neither side is generally held accountable for what they do or say. And I don't know how we're going to rectify that. But meanwhile, we have a constitutional obligation to acknowledge the obligations of the federal government. And for Mitch McConnell to say that he grants that this has to be done, but he's not going to do it, is like a mother saying, I know I have to feed my child to keep her alive, but I'm not going to give her anything to eat. And you have 46 Republicans in the Senate who have basically signed a pledge to vote to default on the federal debt. It's unprecedented. It's unheard of. I can't imagine they won't pay a price if all of a sudden the Dow Jones tanks several thousand points. It almost did yesterday, partially because of uncertainty over the debt ceiling. So, but you're right. I think the base of the Republican Party right now probably agrees with Republicans, and that's sad.
And do you feel like at the end of the day, you guys have to make sure you don't default, even if they don't help you? I mean, I know there's nobody wants to talk about a plan B, but can you imagine standing there and letting this happen to prove a point? I can't imagine that's a scenario. Can you?
No, we have to do whatever we have to do to keep from defaulting. And, Sahil Kapoor talked about the problems with doing this through reconciliation, doing it with only Democratic votes. But also, you basically set up a scenario in which you raise the debt ceiling by a couple $1 trillion, and then you're back in the same situation 6 months from now, where political games keep getting played. So, because to do it through reconciliation, you have to specify an amount you're raising the debt ceiling by. You can't just say we're going to suspend it for a period of time, which is, by the way, what we did for the Republicans just 2 years ago.
Since this debt ceiling is a made-up issue, a made-up problem, would you prefer to see President Biden just unilaterally mint the coin, as they say, do it with an executive authority and test it that way at this point? I mean, this entire debt ceiling thing, I think the public rolls their eyes. It's obviously nothing that's taken very seriously anyway. So what's the point of it? Mint the coin, right?
There is no point to it. We're the only country in the world that has a debt ceiling that operates this way. We've raised it nearly 100 times since it was put into effect 100 years ago. And it hasn't had any impact on the debt. The debt was $9 trillion when I entered Congress in 2007, and it's now $28 trillion. So it's tripled in that period of time. So this statutory debt ceiling is stupid. We need to get rid of it. I suggested to the Speaker, kind of half tongue-in-cheek, that we just raise it to $1 gazillion so we never get there. I don't think she's favorably disposed to do that. But we really need to do away with it. Again, the only thing it does is allow either party to play political brinkmanship. And right now, we're playing with fire.
So raising the debt ceiling is a really serious issue. Whether it is taken away completely in the future or not, it really needs to be dealt with as of now. When it comes to government shutdown, which is separate from the debt ceiling, another issue. So prepare for government shutdown. White House to tell U.S. agencies, basically saying, hey, federal agencies, prepare for the worst. Make sure you have backup plans in place, because it looks like we are going to have a government shutdown. If the funding is not there by September 30th, or at least a stopgap measure to be voted on, then we are going to have a government shutdown, which for a week or two isn't that big of a deal. But once it gets to 3 weeks and on, that's when serious issues are going to happen. Federal workers are not going to get paid. Programs are not going to have funding, and therefore there's no Medicare, no Social Security. A lot of issues with that. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, when it comes to student loan forgiveness, this article came out. I get a lot of questions. What is going on with it? Well, to be frank, student loan forgiveness is still up in the air. That $10,000 or $50,000 in student loan forgiveness is nowhere to be seen. The promise from President Biden is not being fulfilled, despite all of the claims that Democrat senators are making, there is no action being taken on student loan forgiveness. Next, I'm going to answer the questions you leave for me in the comment. Lee Banning, so will we get $1,400 all at once, or will it be given to us in installments? So when it comes to that $1,400 Social Security for senior stimulus check, that has not entered this $3.5 trillion package. Still a proposal, as much as many politicians want this to happen. It has not gone anywhere, and we're really close to a vote, so that is not in there, but it would have been a one-time check. Lawrence Kerr, why have a debt limit if they're always going to raise it? Agreed. Why not just have something automatic in place? Why have all the drama? Why, have all this unnecessary, stuff around it? I agree with you. It seems completely unnecessary. Next question. Carrie Craig. David, did you receive my comment about your phone number being sent? I received this. Is this really you? So if you have received any messages or comments from something that says Wise Flies or someone posing as me, that is spam, and you could potentially get scammed. So don't contact any WhatsApp numbers. I'm not trying to sell you any crypto or anything like that. No sending money. So be really careful. And if anyone sees those type of comments, just report it. You could flag that comment. That is not me. I would never ask for your phone number. I would never give you my phone number. So be really careful when it comes to that. That is all the stimulus news I have for you today to hopefully cheer you up a bit. Here's my daughter Bella's tip of the day.
Hi, this is Bella's tip of the day. I want to tell the one thing that you should do. Like, before I was reading this book, I believed in myself. And I can believe in you too. So just focus on believing yourself and focus on making other people's personalities believe in them too. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of your support. I'm glad that you're able to watch these videos and get value out of it, especially since I spend hours of research sifting through articles and video clips to see which is the best to give it to you in a fast way. So thanks for that. Everything is going well with the family. Had a nice family outing yesterday after my wife worked a 24-hour shift, but all is good. We're trying to spend as much family time together as possible. Hope you are having a great weekend, and if you want to check out any of my other videos, you can click up here or down here, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, be safe. Thank you for watching.